This is a homage beat.
Grace and peace, grace and peace. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of I Saw the Lord. It's your boy Brandon, joined by Jermel. This is week 2. We tackling concept number 22. Why do you die? Last week, we were talking about why does your heart beat. We had a good time. It was Jamel's first time being here, just solo, just me and him. And I was telling him earlier before we got on the mic, just what a great job that he did. I know so many people coming into a podcast not knowing what to expect, having nerves, but I couldn't tell. He did an excellent job. So I'm truly appreciative of again his commitment to be here with me. But I'm excited for another week to dive right into another concept. Again, why do you die? But first, how you doing, Jermel? What's good, bro?
Man, I'm good, man. I appreciate being here, man. Like you speaking on me, talking about, man, you did speaking how well I did, but I can't even speak. I can just speak to how well it is and how bold it is for you to come out and really put your work out there and just allowing people to come in and just share that with you and talk through it. It just takes a lot of courage, and just as someone who's actually a reader of your work and just somebody looking at the work you did, like, we appreciate you putting this out there and taking the time and the effort you did, and also putting in the hours and things you have to do to be able to bring this together and put your podcast together. So we thankful for that as well, and we appreciate the chance to be sitting here with an author, man. Like, it's cool. Like, it's not something that you get to do every day. So it's a humbling thing for me as well, and anyone else that has the opportunity to come up here and put in work with you on the podcast, man. It's really cool, and we appreciate it. Me being the first one to speak that, so I hope everyone has the same.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that a whole bunch. But we're going to jump right into concept number 22, why do you die? And I started off, like I said, when I'm doing these concepts, I just try to take an objective look at what's going on. I start off saying, though it's a morbid thought. So I do want to say that before we start off, because this is a topic that most people do, is sensitive to most people, so I do want to acknowledge that. So if you have had any death, we're not trying to be insensitive to anything like that. I know death is a struggle for a lot of people, even myself, just experiencing the death of someone very near to me this year. So I don't want to make it that we're taking this light. We understand how serious this matter is. So I do want to say that starting out. But it is a legitimate question that people have, and one of the beefs people do have against God. Why did you allow this to happen? So we're just going to take an objective look at this and again point to the eternal truth of the gospel. But I start off saying this, and just even looking at the stats is kind of crazy. I say, though it's a morbid question, it is a reality that we will all one day face. In fact, 55.3 million people die each year. 151,600 die each day. 6,316 people each hour, and 105 each minute. To say these are sobering statistics is the understatement of the century. These statistics are literally morbid. Death is something that should never be addressed lightly because it plagues all of us. However, statistics like this are generally ignored. And so just starting off, I say, do you think we've become desensitized to death?
We can be, because I can just see, just looking at those statistics, they are kind of just overwhelming. Like,
yeah,
you see that
it really is overwhelming.
If you're thinking about 105 each minute, it's just heavy, because you think about, I may not even see 105 people. It's like in a day, so it's like, and then you just look at the people and you just think about your own life, and you kind of take it for granted. Yeah. And you'll look at like how every day you're seeing the same people each day, and these people are here, and you're taking it for granted, and then just never knowing that person could be gone. I mean, it's just a very staggering statistic just to see that, and just the vastness of life here on the earth. Like, how many people there are, like, for this to be, like, it's just how quickly we take it for granted. It's a staggering statistic, man, just thinking about that. And and not even like, and just looking at how the people I still just taking it for granted that I have people in my life, man. It's just when I first opened up the chapter and I saw that, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like that's sobering, man. It's tough. Like it's tough to hear it because like just me speaking that way about just definitely lets us know how sensitive a topic it is. Because when you just sit there and like we see death and it's just something that most time like unless somebody brings up the topic, you're not even talking about it. So.
And I agree. I think you said something good. You said it's just overwhelming. It's just so overwhelming that you don't even want to think about it. Because to think about it is like, because you feel like, what can I do? Because a lot of times it's just out of your control. There's not much that you can do. Like I said, 105 people die each minute. We already started recording. It's been like 5 minutes. So just to even like comprehend that, it's
like
just
540 people.
It's better not even to think about it. And especially, I think we've become so numb to it that even if it doesn't affect like our immediate friend, it's like, okay, they died. And we and as harsh as it sounds, it's like if it's not connected to me, then I'm sorry for your luck, but we just move on. Unless it's like connected to us, then we're like we have a little bit more sensitivity to it. But the reason that I brought up those stats, because like you said, so often I say death has become so common and expected, so much to the point that we rarely even question it. It's woven into the fabric of human nature. We've become to accept that death is a part of life. That's just the way it is. We haven't, not to say that we don't question it, but I think we've come to the realization that's just life. We gotta, like, even raising children, you're gonna have to deal with talking about the reality of death, and you're just like, man, that's just the way it is. And you can't really answer. And I think so oftentimes people are trying to find an answer, trying to say, hey, this is what happens after death, or whatever the case is, and just trying to make sense of it, because a lot of times it just doesn't make sense. And so before even looking at it from a biblical lens, I just, again, wanted to separate myself from those who do not share my worldview. And the reason that because if I'm going to be honest, the first part of the book is just very philosophical, very wordy, if I'm going to be honest. But I think I was doing that for a purpose, for a reason, just to make it the emphasis that when we think about death just in a naturalistic perspective, we just think it's just commonplace. We don't even question it. So I'm looking at it from someone who does not come from a biblical worldview, who comes from an evolutionary atheistic worldview, that this kind of falls like right in line with how they think. And just going through, just like, I was thinking, and I know a lot of people don't like science, but if you ever saw like the ecosystem where one fish eat the little fish and then the little fish eat the other fish, and that it has to go in order, survival of the fittest. So just so that things work. So from a scientific lens, it almost kind of makes sense. I say the evolutionist acknowledges that death is a natural result of life. You cannot have one without the other. Essentially, life and death are constants, are cyclical. Now, I went on to say, because I thought this was like a really great part, because like I said, just making the point that we've become so used to death that there's even scientific explanation to go about and explaining, death. And I'm just trying to see if I had a quote. It's kind of long, so just bear with me. I say, in comparison to humans, and comparing humans to other animals, the same person. Okay, if you are human, you get a little extra grace, that you can be useful to your grandchildren. So there's some evolutionary pressure to stay alive a little bit longer. And then there's a bonus. Being human, you have all the resources and society and technology to keep you safe from predators, healthy and active just a bit longer. But sooner or later, your biological clock runs out. Cells that faithfully renew themselves begin to fail. Again, life, and I say life seems incredibly exciting for the evolutionists. Essentially, the point that they were making is just that it's just inevitable. Death is inevitable from that perspective. I don't know if you wanted to say that.
Like that quote, man. When I read that quote, it was just really, it was interesting. And it made me just wonder were you thinking about, like, were you kind of pointing to the fact that when we think this way and we see death as this inevitable thing, we just live for the here and now? Is that where you were going with that? Because that's just the mindset that put me in, like, you were kind of pointing that out, like somewhat like that. When we have that mindset on death, like we here for a little bit, get it done, have as much fun as we can, we're gone anyway.
I think that's an excellent point to bring up. And yeah, just essentially that if death is the end, I can pretty much do what I want. That I know death is an inevitability.
Yeah.
So let me just, like you said, live it up, do whatever I want. And just having that mind state where it's just like, we don't really question death. We know it's gonna happen. So if it's gonna happen, let me live my best life now, if I could say, and do what I want. And so just again harping on the fact that from an evolutionary worldview, that's just death. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And so again, just trying to harp on that point where in order to have life, you must have death. In order to have death, you must have life. And I say this, essentially life, and I said this already, but I'm going to repeat it again. Essentially, life and death are constants, are cyclical. However, if it is cyclical, that would imply a pattern.
Yeah.
And if there's a pattern, that would imply a design. And if there's a design, that would imply intelligence.
That was when you went there, bro.
I was like,
that was good.
and I said, did that make sense? Because I know, like I said, it was real philosophical. Did that make sense to you? Because my concern is like when someone's reading this, are they gonna be like, what the heck is he talking? And I'll explain it further. But just for you reading it, did you catch what I was saying, or are you like, yo, what is he talking about?
Well, for me, like, I mean, I kind of like over like knowing you for these last. I mean, we feel like we've known each other for more than like 5-6 months, but just hearing you talk and just knowing how you speak and just knowing how you articulate yourself, I kind of saw and I'm already prepared for you to talk in that way.
You know where I'm going.
I know where you're going, so it's like, but I thought it was cool how you went and how you just kind of built on it, because it's like you do that a lot in when I read your work, like you building on it, boom, 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 you coming up and then you hit them with it, so. And you kind of come in like, whoa, intelligence. Now I got to start thinking about it. So I did like how you went there. You showed that there was a pattern. Like you showed that if you're going to have something that's cyclical, it must have some type of pattern. Somebody had to create it and designed it. So it was pretty cool. And I just expound on that, man. Like why, like was that a quote you just kind of, you just flow with, or you just kind of...
just thinking about it. And like I said, I am kind of philosophical when I think through things, because I think God is logical and ordered. So things are going to make logical and ordered sense. And so the big thing about, coming from an atheistic or evolutionary worldview, and I do want to do them justice, so if anybody's out there listening, I apologize if I'm butchering your worldview, but I think the emphasis on evolution is that the world was formed apart from any sort of intelligence.